That was a clip from probably the #1 movie. It will be Monday morning, I'm sure, because it premieres this Thursday in theaters. Producer, written, directed by a citizen of Sway in the Morning, the one and only Jordan Peele.
Yes.
We knew him when y'all didn't like him.
Mm-hmm. That's a fact.
Call him out. Call him out.
Yeah, we
That's
was
a fact.
rocking with him before you saw his genius. Years ago. Do the research. Google us. You'll see it. The new film is called Us. It's in theaters this Friday. But DB, man, this guy's story, the journey it took for him to get here, is quite fascinating. Can you do us the honors?
Yeah, I mean, he started with TV, Persons of Interest, Modern Family, The Messenger is doing some TV, and then he locked the role in of a movie called Black Panther, which came out last year. We had the whole cast. I mean, he wasn't here for the town hall, but we had the whole, like Michael B. Jordan.
Well, we had the A-listers.
Oh, damn.
Sway's coming for me.
Chill.
It's a little early.
That's Mbaku
It's
you
a
talking to.
little early.
Get the bars together. Get your
Maybe
bars
the voice
ready.
needs to deepen a second.
Get a beat ready one day.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
1,
that's
2,
right.
1,
Get
2.
it. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Oh, fuck with Mbaku, man.
You ain't got the answer, Sway. You ain't got the answer, Sway.
Oh, wow, he went for the card right there, man. Tell her what we got in the room, DB.
I thought it was cool, though, I have to mention, because he stars with Lupita Nyong'o in this movie, who they were college buddies who went to see Avengers before they actually got to star in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now they're a part of it, and we have here Winston Duke.
Winston Duke.
That's
ladies and
crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
Man, what must that be like to be watching a movie one day and be in that movie the next?
It is surreal. It is surreal to be on set the first day. It's surreal to see Angela Bassett's arms up close. It is surreal in every single way. Forrest Whitaker, and I'm like walking into the scene, coming out of the waterfall, and I know I'm walking up to Forrest Whitaker. And I know I have no other choice but to bring it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I got no other choice but to bring it because he's bringing it. In every way, and all the subtleties and the big bravado performances that he's capable of doing. I'm like, I got to bring it.
What do you pull from? Because that's a scary moment. That's like the final shot of the NBA Finals. That's like the final throw, the Hail Mary of the Super Bowl.
To be honest with you, I walked into every single room during that whole span of time just knowing I had to bring everything, and that I was doing myself a disservice and everybody else in the room a disservice if I didn't show up ready. So in every way I was prepared. I had conversations with Ryan just being like, what's the goal of the room? From the first table read of Black Panther.
What did he say?
I just was like, what's the goal of the room? Are we here to play today, since this is the last time we're all going to be together, hearing everybody's voice? Or, since we have, the head of Marvel and this person and that person, are we just here to get it, quote unquote, right? And he said, there's no getting it right. This is the last time we're going to be in a room together. Just play, see what you could find, you know what I mean, with everybody else there. Just do it. And we did that. And that kind of gave me permission that carried over into everything else that we did. And to know everybody else was showing up, bringing and leading with their right foot, you know what I mean? It was a good space. It was just a space of unconditional blackness.
Okay, unapologetic.
Every day. And
what that
everybody.
food tastes like.
That food was good.
Yeah.
And it was like, it wasn't even anything particular other than it was ours. It was our set. It was, Snoop Dogg playing in between scenes to keep the extras up and alive. We had traditional Burundi drummers that were part of the scene who were like just drumming in between sets.
Wow.
And, historically, they were not to play for anyone else but the Burundi royal family, right? And in that set, they're like, oh, yeah, this is the room.
Yes.
Y'all the royal family.
You're the royal family.
We're all the royal family in this space. And I was like, my God, do you understand what is being said here implicitly?
Crazy.
What is being implied? It was beautiful.
I never known a movie to impact a community, impact a generation of folks the way that movie impacted us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan is from my hometown of Oakland, you know. So the DNA.
Y'all keep it realer up
Oh,
there.
we keep it 100, Winston. We keep it 100.
I don't know what it is about Oakland, man.
Nah,
It's just
man,
like,
come
y'all
drink
keep
the
it
come
realer
drink the
up
water,
there.
Winston. It's some great Winston Duke is here, by the way. We're going to talk about the film Us momentarily. The fanfare that surrounded Black Panther, it was enormous. It was relentless. It just never went away, and people were so inspired by these fictional characters in a way that it affected them in a real place, in a real way. Did you anticipate that? And having that, did it feel like weight on your shoulder, or did it feel like, honor on your shoulder?
It was honor. It wasn't weight at all. I feel like, and I don't know, I just stumbled upon saying this one day in an interview, but it rang so true to me, which was like we stepped into playing characters and stepped into this as actors and walked out as ambassadors.
There you go.
For Wakanda. You know what I mean? But Wakanda is the construct that people made it into, not the Marvel Wakanda. We came out ambassadors for people's hopes, dreams, people, these characters that people already had in their head, actually. Because that's the thing about what this movie meant to all people of color, all oppressed people, not just black people, but especially black folks, right? We actually already had Wakanda in our head about what Africa means. It was, to me, black people and people in the Caribbean, everywhere, we've been thinking of Africa as a place that sometimes even Africans who actually have boots on the ground don't see it as.
Yeah.
Because it's something distant to us. It's something that was like a paradise, to the world that you live in. You're like, if I could just make it back to Africa, my life could change. Meanwhile, the people who are in Africa are like, it's not great. It's not that great sometimes being here and what we're going through and all that stuff, But we have this idea of what it is and what it could be, and Wakanda's been in our head. You know what I mean? That idea, that construct's been in our head. So Ryan Coogler literally pulled it out, like literally put our dreams on its feet.
Yeah.
And that's what it meant to people. There was, these beautiful like pageants, African dance pageants and gowns and all these things associated with the premiere in Trinidad. And I was like, these are people who have no idea where their ancestry is. Yet they're connected to something just through dance, through performance, through food, through culture, through fabric. You know what I mean? And they're seeing that on screen. And that's what it meant. It wasn't really the movie. It was really
it transcended that screen.
Really quickly.
Really quickly, man.
Really quickly.
Landed in people's heart.
Yep.
In
really
their spirit.
really quickly.
Winston Duke is here.
Winston, we had Marcia Clark here, the prosecuting attorney in the OJ trial. And we were talking to her about pressure. And I'm listening to you, and I hear the final. We all saw the final, this big film, this Black Panther, and you talked about being in a room. But what about before then? Like, what was audition day like when you actually went to go read for the part? Like, what did you do? What was your mindset? Because I know you couldn't see this being like the ending result, but what was the pressure like even going to audition for this film?
So the pressure for this, it came in phases, because that's what the audition process was. It was multiple different phases. So I think the most nervous I was the first time stepping into the room and walking into a room where Sterling is in the waiting, and he's like, "Hi, I'm Sterling Brown." And I'm like, "I know who you are, brother. I'm Winston Duke." And seeing a number of other big names and faces in there that I don't know if they're comfortable me mentioning their names, so I won't.
Okay.
But a lot of big names in the room that I'm like, I'm probably not gonna get this.
Okay.
It's gonna be for the experience. Let's do this, right? And I go into the room. And usually you prep maybe for days. Days. If you got a week, praise God. But you prep for a long time for about 3 minutes. You prep for a long time for 3 minutes of walking into a room, doing the audition lines, and then they're saying, "Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming. It's been nice." And that's it.
Yeah.
And I walk in, I do my thing, and the casting director spends 20 minutes with me. I'm like, okay, this is nice. This is nice. I go home and I'm like, I don't know what else is going to come, but I had gotten to a place where I said I don't care about the audition anymore.
Yeah.
I just go to try to win the room. I put in something that feels like mine, and then I walk away. So I didn't expect to get a call back. Didn't hear back for a month. So I just gave up on it. Then next call back. They work with me again. Nothing. And then I got another month. So 2 months have passed now. And then I get another call that says they're interested. We have a director session with you. And the director's Ryan Coogler. And I was like, oh, it's this project.
Yeah.
Because what we were auditioning with before was with dummy sides. So
Got
these
it.
sides that they write just for the audition.
Yeah,
So
'cause
you
you can't
have
have
no
Marvel
idea.
making shit.
The fake out.
Yeah.
And that happens very often when
Yeah.
they really are attached to the project, and they don't want anybody knowing anything at all to color the experience of the project. They'll put out dummy sides. And I've done other auditions with dummy sides. You don't get to read a script. You don't get anything. You just get a little splice of something. And Ryan was cool, man. It was just, he spoke to me as a brother, which not any director in my history of working in TV had ever done, Like he'd come and he'd whisper something into your ear. It was between you and him, and it felt really collaborative just then. He kept just asking me to do it more personal. Just get more personal with it. Just throw away any of the performance. And I come from theater, so I know how to be big in a room and take up space. Yeah. But he was like, just make it personal. Keep personalizing it. And that happened for about 40 minutes. I left and I said, you know what? Whether I get it or not,
The experience.
I actually technically just got to work with Ryan Coogler.
Yeah.
That's something I articulated for myself like a year before, the kind of directors that I want to start working with.
And it manifested.
And it's really, because I don't believe in just saying things and it happens, or the secret, or positive thinking. Positive thinking didn't get us out of slavery. You know what I mean? Like action did. You know what I mean? Like I don't ever abide by this positivity changes the world. Like systems change the world. You know what I mean? Policy changes the world. Actual action and people sometimes shedding blood
That
changes the world. But in this case, being positive helped me. But I don't, you know what I mean?
Don't count out positive, Winston.
Go back to that positive.
But it helped me in this case because it allowed me to change how I speak to myself in order to change my own actions.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
get
So
that.
it still led to action. It still led to me reading more. It still led to me staying prepared. It still led to me saying, you know what? I'm doing this survival job, but the money that I make, I'm going to pay the rent, and then I'm going to take another class. I'm going to go do a music lesson so my voice stays sharp for when I got to walk in the room. You know what I mean? So it really translated to action.
Translate. Winston Duke is here. He's in the movie Us, which is in theaters this Friday. DB caught a sneak peek.
Oh, no, I saw the whole thing.
Okay, there you go.
And you mentioned bloodshed, which there is a lot of in this movie, and it does cause action. And I tried to wrap my head around the plot because I am a huge horror fan. So the subtle nods to different horror films and things like that. I even read that Jordan made you guys watch movies like It Follows and Martyrs, which is a great French horror film. If you haven't seen that, go see that. But with regards to Us, what was your relationship to horror prior to joining the film and then gaining that understanding of where you need to be in terms of what Jordan wanted to convey?
Didn't have a relationship with horror as a genre at all. Horror didn't really represent me in any way. I felt black people died really quickly. I never saw anybody
First to
really
die in horror films.
completely, and blackness became a martyr for the genre. It became a sacrifice to make the genre function, to some degree. And I never thought that I'd really get an opportunity to really make a change in that. So when I was watching these movies, I went into it to learn function, to learn how different things function, and I really attached myself to The Shining in particular, because you had a family unit at its core. You had a villain that was very familiar. It was the father. It was very familiar, yet they found a way to make that look really foreign and him be very unfamiliar and be scary. So I said that's very similar to what the constructs of monsters that we're messing with in our film. So that's really cool. The house was a character. The house had meaning, and the landscape had meaning and character. So that's something that I could attach myself to because our film has that as well. So I really latched on to those things and then took all that stuff into our movie.
What does the title, when you heard the title Us, and then what did you think about the title, and then having shot the film, what is the title? Does the title mean something different to you now?
No. Title, without giving any spoilers,
Okay,
right? Because that's a big one, and this is live, right?
Yeah, this is very live.
It's very live.
Somebody's waiting
So
right
the
now.
ending of the movie. So my first inclinations were that this script was having a conversation about culture, right? And it's not to say that it isn't particular, because it doesn't translate into the same conversation about race that Get Out did, but it does include race because it's a black family at its core. So anytime you have black skin attached to any conversation, it does translate to a conversation about blackness. So it does have a conversation about blackness, but it's not primarily at its center. And I thought that's a conversation I want to have. I want to have a conversation with culture about culture. And they end up having a conversation about what feels deeply American. It's an American culture conversation, but as a result of being that targeted, you then end up having a global culture, right? Because the conversation of privilege is very universal. You go to England, you go to Germany, you go to France, you go to the Caribbean, you go to any place, there's privilege. And that's what this movie's talking about deeply. So after understanding that, I remembered how I felt about Get Out, and I said, man, these are great conversations. I had a conversation with Lupita because she took the Black Panther cast to see Get Out. I had a conversation with Lupita for maybe 3 hours after Get Out. And after Us, I said, now I want to be in this same conversation, but be in the driver's seat.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in the passenger seat anymore. I want to help inform the conversation about masculinity, about blackness, about toxic masculinity, about possessions, about all these different things that I know about, that I talk about with my friends and family all the time, and I could do it in this form, in this film. So all the things that you'll see in that movie, we saw immediately in that script.
There it is. Winston Duke. Shit, let's line up and go to the theaters this Friday.
He just sold the shit out of that movie.
It's
Yo, I don't even want to. Yo,
Damn.
man, Ryan should be paying you extra for that sale. Jeez, I mean, no, I'm Jordan. I'm sorry.
All
Jordan.
of them.
All of them should be paying you extra.
All of them. Name everybody.
You talk about privilege. We were talking earlier about how you went to Yale. My daughter went to Yale. And we were having this conversation earlier about these Hollywood types that are paying for their kids, paying imposters to take tests for their kids.
And that's the thing that you'll see in our movie is that it ends up translating to a lot of things that are happening way after we shot this movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, because it's a conversation. It's a conversation with your culture. It's a conversation about who bears the weight of your decisions, who bears the weight of your privilege and comfort. You know, something as simple as our cell phones. Like, we don't think that we're participating in any of these blood industries or blood things, but the second you log on to Instagram, you're participating. You don't really think about the people who lose arms, legs, and shed blood to get the minerals to make your phone. That's an actual thing. So whether it's intentional or unintentional, you participate. And I think that's what's really powerful about Us versus Get Out.
Yeah.
So Get Out allowed us to really take a side, right? For me, I watched the movie and I said, man, this is a really cool conversation about gentrification and how violent gentrification could be. But it's being enacted through human bodies. They're really gentrifying the bodies of black people in that movie, right?
Yeah. That was ill.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
right?
that was ill, right?
Like they're
That was
gentrifying people. Yeah.
Yo, that was so ill.
And you don't ever think of gentrification, or a lot of people. I don't want to speak for everyone. A lot of people don't think of how violent gentrification really is. That it's really erasure. It's erasure of culture. It's erasure of history. It's erasure of people. You know, you're actually making people refugees, right? You're moving them out of their neighborhoods. You're moving them out of
without homes. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
and by enacting that on a person, you can go, oh man, that's really violent. If someone tried to take over my brain and my soul, that'd be really bad.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
that's really violent, right? But you're actually doing it every day,
every single day. And
every time you go, yeah, my property value just went up.
Yeah.
You're actually doing it.
Shit, I'm doing it right now.
Right? But it makes us comfortable. But
Yeah.
the thing is, we just never have conversations. These movies aren't answers, they're conversations.
The conversation starters.
So where Get Out said and allowed us to say, I can exist on this side of the argument or this side of the argument. I could be the oppressed person. I understand Chris. Right? I'm LGBTQ, I'm black, I'm a woman, I'm anything. I've understood my light being stolen. I've understood, these microaggressions, right? You could say that. Or you could say, oh man, I've done that to people. This movie doesn't allow you to. It doesn't allow you to take a side that way.
Shit,
so
man. I got it, man.
This
Winston is selling the shit. Man,
chill.
don't say nothing else.
No, what we doing this weekend?
Yeah, we gonna see that movie.
Us in theaters.
Yes.
Nah.
Hey man, congratulations.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if people want to continue this conversation directly with Winston, how can they reach you on social? What's your social?
Man, I don't really follow it. I think it's Winston Duke on Instagram. I got the blue check mark. It's
Okay.
pretty
C.
easy.
Duke on Instagram.
And then
Winston C.
is it
Duke.
on
Yeah, on
Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
Winston C. Duke
He
on
ain't gonna
Instagram.
hit y'all back. He telling you now. He don't know it.
I do.
Stop.
And then it's Winston, I
Underscore.
think _Duke on
Twitter.
On
Twitter. Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate that.
before you go, Candy Burris came by yesterday, and she talked about having seen the movie
Yes.
Us, and I said, Winston is coming by tomorrow. Anything you want to ask him?
Does he see a part 2 coming from it? Yeah. Because there was a lot going on, and then at the end there's a major twist, So it's like, okay, will this lead to some other things?
I don't know. I can't really speak on Jordan's intentions for, his movies.
Yeah.
I think they're really strong as standalones. Get Out was really strong, and it's hard to imagine where that story can lead or how it can manifest. But,
Gotta
it
wait
was
and
a
see.
success.
Yeah.
So something could happen from it. Same thing with our movie. Hopefully, and we pray to God, our intention is that it is something that is a big success, but you never know.
You never know. I think it'll be a big success, huge success. Hey, did you bring the situation?
You mean, did I bring
The scissors.
Yes. Did you bring them? I don't know.
I've been doing the
what-
voice ever since I saw the movie. I'm sorry, man. I can't help it. It's just
Those are the
love it.
scissors.
I love this because
it.
I'm such a huge fan of memorabilia, and
Yes.
this is almost like if they would have sent out the knife from Halloween or the glove from Nightmare on Elm Street, something like that, the keepsake. This is awesome. You know what I mean? And just I don't know exactly how this is going to play into the rest of the series because I heard that this is all tied together, but I thought this was really dope.
Did you want to get them to sign it though?
Not the scissors. I mean,
Not
I
the
just kinda,
scissors? Okay,
yeah.
damn, that was
the
just
box,
showing
yeah,
off?
definitely,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, good. All right. Hey, Winston.
Don't touch my scissors.
Yeah. Thank you for coming by, brother. All right, cool. Appreciate you, man. Continued success.
Black.